Today we're going to be talking about confession and purification. And as many of you know that have done Yungne here, that one of the main purposes of Yungne is confession and purification. And there are two main prayers in the Yungne that we do. We do a lot of them. The first is the 35 Buddhas, or sometimes called the Three Skanda Sutra, and the other is a prayer that's done in place of the Three Skanda Sutra that's repeated 3 times. Now, to go in and I just saw a glitch here, but I'm going to work on it. I figured it out. It says I can't minimize Zoom, and I was wanting to minimize Zoom to get to my notes, but I figured it will work around here. Anyway, the reason why we have to do confession and purification is that for countless aeons, we have in many different bodies, in many different universes, taken innumerable births in innumerable realms, and have collected so much karma in those that, as the Karmapa said, if we would gather it all together in one bunch, there would not be enough in the entire space to hold it. One of the Tibetan words for a sentient being is a karma carrier. So we carry around with us a huge amount of karma. Some of it will definitely ripen. Some of it will definitely not ripen. And those that will ripen, definitely, we need to purify them. And we have to confess them in order to purify them. So in a way, you could say the good thing about bad karma is that it can be purified. We don't have to wait until it bears fruit, and then we suffer as a result of it. So confession is necessary for that. It also is important to realize, we were talking about this in the Tuesday class, that karma is diffuse. And when we experience something negative in our lives that causes suffering and hardship and so forth, a lot of times it is through a combination of different actions that we have done from the beginningless beginning. It's not usually a one-to-one relationship. You could call it interdependence if you would like. Now, actions that we have done intentionally that are negative will definitely ripen and bear negative fruit. Those that we have done unintentionally won't necessarily ripen and bear the fruit of suffering. So that's important to know. In other words, our intentions are a very important part of the kind of karma that we create and what our experience will be. Now, we have all done very terrible misdeeds from the beginningless beginning. And as a result, if we are going to purify them, we need to have a very strong antidote. And Rinpoche kind of used this example, and that is that these antidotes are like using a cleaner on something that you want to clean. Let's say it is a cooking pot that is absolutely black. And you clean it, and maybe you remove a lot of the dirt, but it's still dirty. So you keep cleaning it over and over and over again, and eventually it gets clean. And so, because we have so much negative karma with us, it's not that one confession prayer one time is going to, you might say, take care of the problem. And again, this is one reason why I like to do Yungne here, because it is a very powerful practice of confession and purification. When you get into more advanced practice, there is the Nundro practice of Vajrasattva, that you do his mantra, which is a very strong purification mantra, 111,111 times. And even when you finish that part of Nundro, you would not necessarily then just put that down and say, well, I don't need it anymore. I covered that. I checked that box. And as you know, when we do a lot of practices like White Tara, we, towards the end, do the Vajrasattva mantra. When we do Nyungne, we do the Vajrasattva mantra at the end. And it's very common with deity practice to do the Vajrasattva mantra to purify any mistakes, errors, omissions, inattention, and so forth that we have had during that deity practice. So to go on here, if we don't confess them, our negative deeds keep building more and more and getting stronger and stronger. And there are different forms of karma. I once talked to Rinpoche about this, or asked a question during a teaching about habitual patterns. And he said that's the most insidious form of karma, where we have become habituated to behaving a certain way, and it's a negative behavior. And our habits get very strong, and our strongest habits go with us from one lifetime to another. And our strongest habits in this lifetime we took with us from previous lifetimes. And this is why it's so hard to change them. But then there's also mental conditioning, where we just get accustomed to seeing things a certain way. I guess the best example of that is we see things through the window of duality, and we're almost always thinking about, how does this relate to me? Is this good for me? Is this bad for me? Is this painful for me? And so forth. And then at another level, it is just our plain negative deeds, where whether they were done out of habit, done out of panic and fear, or done because we wanted to do them, and so forth, it's planting seeds that will ripen. And it will also strengthen our habitual patterns too, when we keep doing it over and over again like that. I kind of like to use the example that we're in a boat, let's say a small boat, a rowboat, and it's got a hole in it, and it's filling up with water, and we've got a bucket, and we keep throwing the water out over the side of the boat back into the lake. So the purification is throwing the water back into the lake, but we need to make the aspiration and the effort to not do it again, which is plugging the hole. Or else, no matter how hard you bail, you're still going to sink. So to go on here, let me see. I want to find the next part of my talk. Very simply, there are 10 non-virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind. And I'm going to go over those very briefly here. The first is killing, especially killing a human being. And the reason why killing a human being is more serious than killing an animal is that a human being are more able to come in contact with the Buddha's teachings, practice them, develop into a kinder, more caring, loving person, and eventually attain liberation, where it's much more difficult for an animal. And again, you need three elements of any negative action to make the karma the strongest, and it is the intention. If you purposely do kill and then you engage in that action and succeed, that's the second necessary part. Then the third is rejoicing in having accomplished the killing. That's what makes it most serious. So going back to what I said earlier, if you don't have the intention to kill and it's an accident, it's much less serious. And if you have regret after the killing happens, then again, that weakens the karma. The next is stealing, taking that which is not freely given, and getting property from people from, by force, by stealth, by deception, and so forth. All of these are falling into that category of taking that which is not freely given. And again, remember, you need those three elements to make it most serious. Sexual misconduct is the next one. And a part of this is cultural. So having sex with a person who is not reached the age of consent is cultural. And another is having sex with a person where you have forced yourself on that person. Having sex with a person who has vows to be celibate is a third one. And the fourth one is having sex with a person where it would cause them physical or mental harm. The four of speech are lying, and especially telling a spiritual lie. Talking about how great a meditator you are, or talking about the fantastic experiences you have had while you're doing deity practice or nundro or whatever, and even exaggerating them. And in fact, if you are having wonderful experiences in any of your practice, it's a good time to talk to the Lama about them, because it's really easy to get arrogant and go in the opposite direction of where your practice would lead you. So lying, especially creating disharmony in the Sangha, is negative. And the second one is creating disharmony, especially creating disharmony in the Sangha. But just even creating disharmony in the secular world is a problem. Disharmony causes just lots and lots of problems. As you can see in this country right now, it causes anger, it causes people getting mad at each other, people doing things to hurt other people, all kinds of negative things. The third negative speech or negative action of speech is harsh words. Again, getting angry, yelling at people, using uh, words that hurt people. It is said that uh, if you bring things to a painful point, you're wrong, even if you're right. In the English language, I think being diplomatic is a good term here. That you can, bring things up for discussion and to point out things, but do it in a very diplomatic way. One thing that I have found actually is a lot of times if you bring things up, even directly, uh, where even if they don't get mad, they are very easy to, what would I say, kind of use verbal karate, and they completely miss the point of what I was trying to say. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, our minds are very slippery. Our kleshas are very slippery, and uh, Rinpoche was that way. I think that's a good way to put it. He usually would not directly say, "This is what your problem is." So here was an experience I had with him. This was a year or so before the pre 3 year retreat training program started out at KTD. I had an interview with him, and I had made a strong commitment to attend the retreat, and got his permission and everything. And now I'm having second thoughts about this. And I said, Rinpoche, I'm not sure I'm ready to do a 3 year retreat. And he just said, it all depends on your motivation, nothing more. And that gave me something serious to think about. And quite honestly, it wasn't until the retreat ended that I really fully understood that. What he meant is you needed bodhisattva motivation, that you're doing this to benefit others, to travel the path so that you can benefit others. Without that motivation, it doesn't work so well. So the last negative action of speech is gossip. Talking about other people, usually when they're not present. And there is no such thing as positive gossip. It would be called praise. So gossip is a serious problem. And another form of this is just idle chit chat, where you're talking and talking and talking. Nothing is really important that you're talking about. You're just filling space, and you're wasting your own time, and you're wasting other people's time. Now, Rinpoche was questioned about this, and he said, well, of course, we need to do some idle chit chat to put people at ease. But that's the main purpose of it, and keep it short. And then there are 3 of mine that are negative actions. And one is envy, wanting, feeling other people have more than you in any different way it could be, possibly, whether it be material things or spiritual things and so forth. The second is ill will towards others, wanting harm to come to others, even if you don't cause the harm, but just wishing, I wish that something would happen to that person because, well, I don't like that person. I don't like what that person is doing, and so on and so forth. And then the third is wrong view. And that is not doubting the teachings, but just feeling that the teachings are wrong at a particular point. And along with that would be then not going to a Lama and asking questions. Well, I don't understand this. I'm wondering about this and so forth. It's just rejecting it. So those are the 10 non-virtuous actions. And these tend to be at the Hinayana level. At the Mahayana level, our actions are geared towards benefiting others. And the worst thing that a person that has taken bodhisattva vows could be is to what's called abandoning sentient beings. And that is saying one person or a group of people that I will never do anything to benefit them, because that totally violates your bodhisattva vow. Now, again, uh, this dents the bodhisattva vow, it doesn't break it. And this is where confession comes in. It's like taking your car to a body shop and getting the dent bumped out and repaired. I like that because I just had my car at the body shop. So, and then at the Vajrayana level, if you've taken empowerments and so forth, there are samaya commitments that are part of that. And again, the confession and purification will take care of that. Now, in many of these purification prayers, they talk about the 5 limitless actions. And we have done all of these in previous lives. And so an extensive confession it might just say the 5 limitless actions or the 5 actions of immediate consequence, but here's what they are: to kill one's father, to kill one's mother, to kill an arhat, to create disharmony in the Sangha, and to shed the blood of a Buddha. So we have done all of this. It might have been aeons ago in a distant universe, but we have done all of these. And by admitting that we have done this, it allows us to then purify it. So the way the purification works is I like to use the rule of thumb, the 4 R's. And the first of these is regret, to understanding that you have done this and you regret it. And so in order to do that, first of all, you have to understand what is non-virtuous and what isn't, and then self-examination. Self-examination is very, very important. If we don't examine ourselves, we won't see it. And kind of as I hinted at earlier, if someone else examines you and say, you need to take care of this, you're still probably not going to see it. It's amazing how easy it is for us to see the faults of other people and how hard it is for us to see our own faults. So it's really important to do self-examination. And then when you see that this is what you have done and are willing to admit that, yes, the Buddha is right and the teachers are right, that I have probably done all these other things in previous lifetimes that I have no recollection of. Regret is the first power that this is in Lama Kathy's words. She uses the term renunciation. Maybe renunciation and regret are just two different slants on this phase. So she says, we review our actions and understand them to be wrong. We feel intense regret for having done them. In essence, we renounce our negative actions which have harmed others and interfered with our quest for Buddhahood. And so then the next one, and she has these two reversed, and it's reliance. So we visualize the Buddha, a Bodhisattva, visualize Karmapa, and so forth in front of us. And we see them as an object of refuge, as well as a witness. And these are bodhisattvas and Buddhas are suitable witnesses because they are free of stains and they are compassionate. In the 35 Buddha prayer, if you can do it, you would actually visualize 35 Buddhas, which are mentioned one by one in the beginning of the prayer. So the point is to visualize a being in front who you have tremendous faith and confidence in as a witness to your confession. Then the third is the remedy. And the remedy is to recite the liturgy of confession with the intention that you are repairing whatever it is that you have done wrong. So we speak these words and try to feel it in our heart rather than just, you might say, in our mind. And so I'm going to read here's an English translation of this short prayer that we do in Yungne 3 times. Woe is me, great Guru Vajradhara and all other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions and Venerable Sangha. Please pay attention to me. I, and then we say our name, our Buddhist name, from beginningless samsaric lifetime until now, owing to the defilements, greed, hate, and delusion, have committed by body, speech, and mind the 10 non-virtuous actions. I have created the 5 immediate karmas, killing one's father, one's mother, killing an arhat, causing the Buddha to bleed, causing a schism in the Sangha. I have created the 5 similar to them. I have broken the Pratimoksha vows. I have broken the Bodhisattva vows. I have broken my tantric pledges. I have been disrespectful to my parents. I have been disrespectful to my preceptors and teachers. I have been disrespectful to companions in the celibate life. I have done actions harmful to the 3 jewels. I have rejected the true Dharma. I have abused the Sangha of Aryas. I have done actions harmful to sentient beings and so forth. This accumulation of non-virtuous actions that I have done, asked others to do, or rejoiced in when others have done them, and so forth. In short, my entire accumulation of faults and offenses that hinder higher rebirths and liberation and cause samsara and evil rebirths, I confess before the great Guru Vajradhara, and to all other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions and the Venerable Sangha. I do not conceal them, I reveal them. Henceforth, I will take up restraint. If I confess and reveal them, I shall dwell in pleasant contacts, but if I do not confess them and reveal them, I shall not. So that is one. A very simple one that can be done, by the way, is, and that is if you don't know any of these others and don't have access to them, would be the short Vajrasattva mantra, which is Om Benza Sato Hung. And this is why we have prayer beads or malas, is that you would sit down, again, visualize the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in front of you, develop this regret and renunciation, and then just say Om Benza Sato Hung for a few malas. There's a longer mantra, the 100-syllable Vajrasattva mantra. Khenpo Rinpoche once said, it's essential if you're doing Vajrayana practice to know that mantra and say it. Another prayer is the 35 Buddha prayer. And again, if you have done Nyungne with me, you're familiar with that. And if you have a Nyungne text, you have that prayer and you have the one I just read in English. So that leaves the last one. The fourth R, which is the power of Lama Kathy says, resolution. I like also the word resolve. So she says, resolve not to commit the negative actions ever again. So without that, the confession is not effective. Again, it's like you're in a boat with a hole in it and you're bailing it out, but you haven't done anything to really plug that hole. So Rinpoche says that daily confession is a beneficial practice for all bodhisattvas and all Buddhists, people that are, you might say, baby bodhisattvas. Now, even if you don't do it every day, it's good to do it at least once a month on full moon days. It's also good when you have done something or you remember something that you have done that you want to confess and purify, to do it quickly. The sooner after you do something negative to purify it, the easier it is to purify. It's like you get a stain on a white shirt. You want to put it in the washer or take it to the dry cleaners quickly, so it doesn't set in. So it's important to do this on a regular basis of one kind or another. And again, going back to the Nyungne, this is why I'm always pleased when people come and do, even if it's one Nyungne, or like we just did, a few people came and did a Nyingne, which was just from 5 o'clock in the morning until we finished about 5:30 in the evening. Also, you can include all sentient beings when you're doing this, and imagine that you are praying for the purification of all sentient beings.